Hi everyone, welcome back. Here on Talking Transformation, we always appreciate hearing from service providers who are in the midst of making fundamental changes to how they work. Telecom does have a reputation for being somewhat risk averse, so any decision that takes operators away from conventional thinking attracts even greater attention than it would in other industries. So right now, one of the major drives in telecom is towards autonomous networks. From our research, we know that there's no way to get there that doesn't involve some non-traditional concepts, thinking, technologies, and working practices. But what does that look like in practice? Well, today's guest can certainly help us understand that. He's Dr. Tomek Gersberg. He's the head of Group Future Networks at Axiata. For those who don't know, Axiata counts some 175 million people as customers across eight Asian countries from Sri Lanka to the Philippines, an enormous region. In 2022, it announced a telco to techco strategy, placing AI and digital platforms at the heart of its business. It then followed that up in December 2024, announcing a group-wide network and operations transformation, codenamed A3, which stands for Axiata Autonomous Networks and AI. Strong alignment to the TM Forum's open digital architecture. We'll be talking with Tomek about that in just a minute. Dr. Gersberg joins me here today. Tomek, welcome to Talking Transformation. Great to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. And I accepted this invitation with great pleasure.
Excellent. Well, very good to have you. We do appreciate it. And always hearing from the front line makes a huge difference. And people are always interested in seeing how people are experiencing these momentous changes in our industry. Also joining our conversation today for some perspectives on autonomous networks from the APAC region is my colleague Shanti Ravindra. And Shanti, welcome back.
Thank you, Robert.
Shanti, I'm going to start with you. This conversation today was partly inspired by the discussions at the FutureNet event in Asia, in Singapore. What sort of significance does autonomous network have among operators across APAC?
Thank you, Robert. Welcome, Dr. Tomek, to this podcast. It was great hearing you speak at FutureNet. A lot of candor, a lot of effort going into all this work. APAC is a very diverse region, a large area with developed countries, developed markets, and developing nations and developing markets and networks as well. But we do have some unifying characteristics across this region, which at this time looks favorable for autonomous network. The first is that we have intense competition, pricing pressures. So we have seen a lot of consolidation in many of the markets, even in the ones that Axiata operates in. And this is a time of transformation as CSPs go through rationalization. It's a good time to think about autonomous network.
Thanks, Shanti. Tomek, at Axiata, you've launched this major transformation, A3. Can you explain what brought you to decide on such a comprehensive set of changes and why, maybe addressing some of Shanti's points, so why now is the right time to do that?
Okay. So we operate on very specific markets. So we have the RPU like between $2 and $5. So for us, one of the major tasks is to continuously optimize the cost of operations. The cost of production for the gigabyte of data needs to be still reduced. We did a great job, like my predecessors did a great job on that, but we are reaching the moment that you can't do it anymore with very traditional approach. Because how long you can squeeze the vendors through the procurement and so on. Okay, you can let the assets sweat, but to some point, you can't sweat them anymore. So for us, network production cost was one of the targets, and we saw automation as the way that would help us. The second part is we are seeing that this change. There is a change on the market. There are new services coming. We still don't know what will be the impact on the AI, on the consumer, on the applications, but we are sure there will be a one, right? So we need to get prepared, and we need to get prepared by having the flexibility how we reshape our services. For this, automation is also needed, right? So the one goal is the cost of the network production. The second is the ability to generate more revenue. And then we started to look at the way how we run the networks. And we spotted that the systems that we have right now are not flexible enough, either by the technology design or sometimes even by the commercial models that are attached with that. So even like bringing your own AI model into someone else system, I would say to someone else like vendor system, is not always easy. And also, like, even if you invent an AI use case and you have the kind of new machine learning application, how to make it portable between our opcos. If you don't have, the same type of interfacing, if you don't have the same, it's always coming with the cost. So for us, it was very clear that we need to design something new. And luckily we can skip or like move much faster towards like L4 automation. Because sometimes, being a little bit behind the others is an asset. Because we don't need to explore, some of the paths that turned to be, not efficient, right? So we saw that, okay, how to build, the cost-effective way for the level 4 automation that would deliver the programmability of our networks, that would enable to embrace very easily AI, and in the very, I would say, open way, because we really believe that the openness is a new paradigm for the networks, for the networks design.
If I can ask you, what comes first in that process? And you talk about programmable networks. We have open things like TMF, open digital architecture, softwareization, automation as a goal. What drives? Is this a network first and then automation second, or is it automation first, kind of driving the network? If you see what I mean, in terms of strategy, overall strategy, or do the two have to come a part of a single vision?
The first is the dollar. If we don't see that, automation brings the impact to the P&L, then we don't do that, right? But we are also in the situation that a lot of processes is run by the vendors. A lot of control over the network is still in the vendor's hand.
Yeah.
Right? So we see that automation can also help us to regain the control over network and about, over our network production.
Destiny. Yeah.
So this is a little bit different to some like the US or European operators who don't have much, services, managed services on the vendor side.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. It's as much a market change and a swing the pendulum back from outsource to insource. That's been going one direction for a long time. I think quite a few operators understand that, but it's interesting that you make that connection to autonomous networks and that sort of sense of self control your own destiny. Very interesting. You're experienced, industry professional, Tomek. I'm curious about what's most different about your A3 plan compared to, if you like, the status quo, the default trajectory. Telcos spend a lot of money essentially maintaining things as they are, especially in an OSS and BSS context, because it's hard, it's difficult, and it's complex. But I'm wondering, at some point, you have to deviate from the default path. And I'm just wondering what are the aspects that are most different in your A3 plan than say a strategy you might have had 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, you're very right. Why 10 years ago? Like 20 years ago was pretty the same, conceptually. Right? In the last 20 years, we didn't have much change, in this OSS world, right? We are still, like following the very early concept of building umbrellas and the umbrellas of an umbrellas.
Yeah,
It's like a kind of dead end if you think from the level 4 and level 5 automation perspective. So what is the hardest? The hardest thing is that, it's not like for the well-established type of business, you just go to the shop and you buy. You write the spec and then you ask, 2-3 vendors for the RFQ. You secure the price, you let them implement it and so on, right? So this is not possible right now because many existing vendors are still like looking the ways how they would like to deliver L4. Many of them are thinking about the different ways. Some of them, what I see, are still thinking about very closed environments, how to keep control over the business, So this is the hard part, that we need to convince, to find the thing that similarly thinking companies, also convince to our ideas, to share the vision, and then in the collaborative way to deliver the pieces of the architecture through the POCs. So that's why it's a little bit like going to the L4 like step by step, but with very clear destination. And that's why we not only, let's say, defined the architecture, but we have published it. And by the way, this is the piece that you can download from our webpage, because we are searching for the people who can help us delivering it, right?
Yeah, that seems to be there's a mood of collaboration and openness to a degree in the industry. I think you've been quite vocal about really encouraging that and really saying, we can't and don't intend to do this on our own. This has to be a collaborative effort, and reaching out to the wider industry and looking for that extra input. Are there particular areas that you would highlight as needing attention from an industry-wide point of view? What would you target a collaboration specifically?
I believe, and this is the utmost thing, which is the openness. Why I'm saying that? Because that what we see and what we can observe as the trend is that standardization is advancing, but interoperability is not advancing as much as standardization.
Okay.
So, and also like for those new types of intent-driven networks, you can't go standardization path. Because, when you standardize it, the technology will be already obsolete, and, the technology world will be in a different place, right? So you need to build in the agile way. And for this agility, you need to have openness. Openness is new interoperability. And I believe, many operators can confirm that OSS is the best example, right? The cooperation between the big vendors on the OSS side, interoperability of the OSS systems, is not very much advanced. Yeah. So this is something I believe that I would place as the topic number one in our industry, that we need to speak clear and loudly that the future needs openness. If there is no guarantee on interoperability, then at least the openness needs to be guaranteed. Because on the other hand, with the LLM models, we don't need so much standardization. For many integrational things, you know, LLM model will do the job.
The document you shared there, we'll get a QR code on the screen as well for that, so people can download that.
Wonderful, thank you.
It's very much a blueprint for a complete picture, and I think in our conversations with operators, sometimes they can see the big picture. I think a lot of people are agreed on the end state, but they're not always sure what direction to progress in. What's the right path? What are the priorities and what's the sequence? I know that may vary for different operators, but in your case, how have you charted that path and prioritized and sequenced the major phases or milestones to getting to that, as I say, that complete blueprint being realized?
The first step that we are taking is related with two areas, or related to two areas. The first is the abstraction of the lower layer of the network. And in our architecture, this should happen through the domain controllers, right? So we want to get like the run controller, like the SMO, to control run and to deliver one point of automation for run. Would like to have the same like for the transports, and with core is much easier, of course. So this is, I would say, point number one. But the second point is the foundation for all the future projects. And this was very much already, announced by our Chief Business and Technology Officer, Thomas Hunt, in Singapore. We need to have a data ocean. We call it a kind of data ocean because we don't want to imply any particular technology on that, like data lake house, mesh, whatever it would be. But the data needs to be democratized. One of the problems right now in the systems is that the system owns the data. So the application owns the data, right? And the problem, with delivering use cases is that, you don't have like the one place where all possible data could be exposed in the real time, right? Because even right now, the applications that are like consuming some data in the real time, but delivering aggregates like every 15 minutes or something like that. So this concept does not fit to the L4 automation from my perspective at all. A lot of use cases are coming from the cross domain kind of visibility and intelligence, right? If you want to deliver a kind of intent-based end-to-end service, you need to have that. And availability of all kind of data in the real time is not existing in most of the networks. And this is also the biggest challenge, how to do it ideally in this super cost efficient way without data duplication. And this is, again, very often, sometimes it's even more commercial problem than the technology problem.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those applications are using the same open source. There's some Hadoop inside, some Elastic inside, and so on, right?
Yeah, that's a big change. As you say, the bringing together of data is certainly something that's attracting a lot of attention from operators, and we've been hearing a lot about that in the last sort of 18 months or so. This creation of a data layer, and then maybe even above that, a kind of intelligence layer. That's what AI seems to require. But it's a radical shift, as you say, in how data is managed. Instead of it being behind the application, invert that model and make the data be available to multiple potential applications. The same data, aggregated in different ways. And your comment about use cases of value being at that cross-domain layer, that also seems to be something rather new when you're putting together data that's previously been very different parts of the organizations, invisible. And maybe there are smart things that you can do, back to your point earlier, to, bring costs down. If you can combine information together in real time, to make better decisions. It seems quite a new area for telecom to explore. Shanti, can I just ask you about this a little bit, because I know you've been doing some research on the kind of cross-domain area and autonomy. Is this something you think there's a kind of consensus on the direction towards autonomous networks being kind of bottom up in this way, or what are you seeing?
Yes. So what we have seen in our research, we identified 8 best practices, and one of them is around data. So in the past, we had these really large inventories, sort of single source of truth. But what we realized is that if a domain needs to be autonomous, it needs to have control of its data, which means that that is what gives you real-time control and creation of new services, etc. So, but that data could remain in the domains and could be federated in to provide you this data ocean functionality. So, absolutely right. That is one of the key areas, and there is approaches around it where integrators can bring in this data together, and also bring a digital twin into the picture to this real-time idea.
Kira, Tomek, since you mentioned that question about platforms and data, and Shanti's talking about bringing this data together, this sounds like a kind of hyperscale territory. Are you working with hyperscalers to do that? Is that part of what's changing in anyone's OSS strategy? We're interested in this topic because we see that some of the conventional principles and so on in telecom have been quite closed, and now we're seeing more influence and more appearance of hyperscale companies. We don't have to name names, that's not really the point, but the point is that they're bringing a lot of expertise and knowledge from outside. Can you talk a little bit about how that features in your data ocean considerations?
We are exploring this possibility because, of course, this is their daily job to handle the data. This is their daily job, to deliver the highest possible economy on this process, right? So definitely they are strong potential partners. Any of the hyperscaler, yeah, you can name all the names. There are only two things. The first is the data residency, because we are in the very regulated market. So if your partner, your hyperscaler partner, has the presence in your country, then it's easy, right? But if we have also the countries in our footprint, like Bangladesh, like Cambodia, that may not necessarily be a primary target, for the rollout on the hyperscaler side. This is one. The second thing is related to the cost, because this part, I would say, when we look at the way how the products are delivered, then this market was driven mostly by the kind of corporate analytics business, right? The corporate analytics does not require hot data, right? So what I see is that there is a very big difference between the price of the hot data, cold data, and deep frozen data. Like for us, deep frozen is not interesting, I would say, from the network perspective. But we are working on the hot data, and this is very expensive right now, right? So finding the ways of kind of optimization, and I believe this is okay, because they were not designed, to run. Those products were not designed for the telcos.
Yeah.
And at the moment, that the hyperscalers will see that, okay, telcos could be also a good business. I believe they will do miracles.
Yeah.
But this is not happening right now, and this is what we are engaging with various partners to explore, and also to convince that this could be a path.
Yeah, no, very interesting. It's certainly a hot topic, and again, there's still a little bit feeling things out, I think, on both sides. I think of that discussion right now. What makes sense and what's economical. So that's quite an active discussion, I think. Your A3 program is pretty ambitious, and that's on top of another strategic transformation. We were talking with Mark Sanders at Telstra on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, and they've had a sort of rolling succession of transformation initiatives. I think it's been quite interesting. If you can give a guide, I mean, in broad terms, how long do you expect this transformation to take? And I guess a related question is about investment levels. Given that you're deviating away from what might have been a status quo, how do you calibrate the level of investment required to deliver this kind of transformation?
This we are assessing through the POCs, and this is happening right now. Some of the things we already calculated and see, like for instance, like the SMO for RAN, it's already taken as a target to be rollout in our opcos next year. The areas like data ocean, we are just exploring through the dedicated task forces. But if you take the automation as a kind of additional cost, you will not make the business case, or it's very difficult, right? And again, for us, automation, it's not a fashion. We are not going to the Gucci store to buy our stuff. We are going to Walmart. So I'm sure that we can source pretty capable models and solutions at the reasonable price. And we still need to not to forget that even existing way of operations is not cheap, right? So actually, like if you are able to build a sidecar that is not expensive, because I don't believe in revolution, we will not have revolution here. It's simply the way how to manage the evolution in the cost-effective way, and to do it, let's say, pretty fast. So for that, I believe we'll go just step by step. We will see that, okay, digital twin is not bringing the value at this moment because it's still, I would say, growing business, or the business at his early stage. And some of the digital twins, they do the job that can be done without a digital twin. Then we will not go for that, right? But if we see that, okay, this digital twin is great in eliminating, like human testing, that we can, like run every type of, I would say, run configuration before we roll it out into the network, we can run through the twin. And this is, kind of, and it delivers me a saving against my current P&L, or delivers me an uplift that I can, better optimize the network, take more traffic and so on, then we'll go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So all the transformations here goes against the dollar.
Yeah, that's it's good to hear that focus and interesting. It's not something we hear in all our conversations. I think there's a lot of architectural thinking, but I think your context at Axiata is very very strongly tied to the number in the business and what it costs to run your business. You seem to have a very strong connection between those two. Excellent. That's very interesting. That's been very enlightening. Shanti, I know the conversation with Tomek, both at FutureNet and today, has been very, very enlightening, I have to say. How is this feeding into some of the research that you've got coming out in the near future?
So we are also looking at the practical aspects of it, and Dr. Tomek in FutureNet as well raised some very very clear concerns about how to bring the actions together from an integration perspective. How do you bring multiple vendors together, multiple technologies together, how to maintain the legacy along with the others? And Axiata has very diverse markets, so they need to do things from all angles. So our upcoming research is looking at how systems integrators can evolve to become real partners for CSPs. What are the activities that are changing? Just like you mentioned, when they are setting up a digital twin, how do you bring in the models to make this automated, and how do you share these models? So we've got some research coming up on that topic, which I believe will be useful to operators in the long run.
Yes, fascinating. I know Francis has just published some material on digital twins. I know that'll be a big theme for us going forward as well. So across the systems integration aspects and digital twins, I think we've got a lot in the pipeline that's going to be interesting to people. Tomek, I want to thank you for your time today. That's been very interesting and very enlightening. Thanks for being so candid with us on your experiences. We really appreciate it, and I think the listeners will also appreciate it. And
thank you very much for having me. And please remember to download the Axiata free architecture paper.
Yes,
we'll get a QR code put on the screen for that.
Join us on the journey, please.
Okay, please come back another time and talk to us about how things are going. We look forward to talking with you again. I'm Robert Curran, and this has been Talking Transformation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Proton.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.